Hey everyone, what is up? Welcome back. If y'all are new here, hi, my name is Samantha Tillman, where I do all of things vlogging. I do all of things talking about the word, which is more of what my channel is becoming, is more of just talking about the word. I've had to do a lot of running around this morning, trying to get this little beautiful mic that I just purchased that came in today to work. On my way to Target, I was like, God, I need to be hype. I need to be hype. And when I got in the car and turned on the music, I'm driving down the street and this song comes on the radio. It's Take It All Back by Tauren. He's talking about, I'm taking back what the enemy stole. It's so good. I literally, once I heard it, I was at the light and I already added it to my playlist and was blasting it the whole rest of the way to Target and the whole rest of the way back, because I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I'm about to preach about, is taking back what the enemy stole. The message that we're going to talk about today says you are exactly where you were supposed to be. And taking back what the enemy stole is us taking back what the enemy has deceived from us and lied to us about. It made us feel like we're not ready. It made us feel like we're not good enough. It made us feel like we're not where we're supposed to be and that God is disappointed in us. And that is basically my entire message. I am so excited to get into this. I hope that you guys are ready. I hope that you guys have your coffee, your beautiful drinks, mocktails, whatever it be. And let's get into the word today.
What a beautiful day. Found a love in my dreams. Nothing gonna come in between. No, they say the grass is green. Yeah, I know what that means.
There was a story that I heard once, right? And it was talking about one day when you pass away and you get to meet Jesus and you're sitting at the table with Jesus, Jesus goes, would you like to know what you would have looked like, how you would have been, had you have done everything that you were supposed to do and you were obedient? Would you like to see who that person would have been? And I always said yes. In my head, every time I thought about that or heard it, I'm like, obviously I want to know who I would have been. I've never realized it until a couple of days ago when I actually wrote this, that it's not real. And that question right there is a lie. That question right there is from the enemy, because that makes you believe that you are not where you're supposed to be at. And it makes you believe that you have failed God, that you have disappointed God. And yes, there are times that we get off of our path, but let me tell you something. These thoughts that you have of what ifs are also lies from the enemy. See, the enemy wants us to get off of thinking about the present and being in the present moment and having gratitude and appreciation in the moment. And the enemy wants us to think about where we failed at, where we have missed our mark, where we're like, dang, now I'm 30. I guess I'm not supposed to be married. And I'm 45 and I shouldn't be changing career paths at this time. I'm too old, I've completely failed God because this isn't what God had planned for me. Had I would have started this career when I was 20, I could have made it back then, And these are all lies from the enemy. The enemy wants you to worry about the future and what you should be having soon, right? And he wants you to worry about the past and what marks you've missed and never worry about the present. Honestly, going back to that question of would you want to meet the person that you would have been, that person doesn't exist. Let me say that right now. That person does not exist. You have not missed your mark. God is not surprised that you have done something that you weren't supposed to do. If you got addicted on some type of drug, or you were an alcoholic, or you ended up having a kid with a man you weren't married to and you're not in love with, all of these things that you feel like you have failed, you have missed your mark, you decided not to go to college and now you're 45 wishing you would have, you have not missed a mark. You have not missed a mark. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. Your story was already written before you were born. God already knew who you were going to be. God already knew what you were going to do. God already knows the mistakes you were going to make. Everything is written. There is not one thing that you were going to do that God is like, oh my gosh, I wasn't prepared for this. I guess I don't know what to do for her. You think I don't know? We have to give God more grace, and we have to give God more respect for who he is. He is the creator of the universe. He's the creator of our lives. Our life is already written, and God has already been there, done that. We just have to sit and know that God has already taken care of it. That is why Jesus died. Our life was already written when Jesus died. I wanted to read about a story in the Bible called A Man Cleansed. This is again coming out of Mark chapter 1, verses 39 through 45. So he, which is Jesus, went into all of Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. Then a man with leprosy came to him, and on his knees begged him, "If you are willing, you can make me clean." Moved with compassion, Jesus reached out his hand and touched him. "I am willing," he told him. "Be made clean." Immediately the leprosy left him, and he was made clean. Then Jesus sternly warned him and sent him away at once, telling him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest and offer what Moses commanded for your cleansing as a testimony to them." Yet he, the man with leprosy, went out and began to proclaim it wildly and to spread the news, with the result that Jesus could no longer enter a town openly, but he was out in deserted places, and they came to him from everywhere. There are multiple times in our life that Jesus is going to warn us. Jesus is going to sternly warn us. Jesus is going to tell us not to do something, right? Multiple times. I bet you we can make a whole book, 365 pages of things that Jesus has told us not to do that we have done. I agree. That's me. Jesus has told me to do multiple things that I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I see where you might be going with that, but I'm not doing that. Sorry. And you think God goes, oh my gosh, she didn't do this. This was the only way that I could get her to meet her husband, was at this job. I can't make her meet her husband now. I don't know what to do. You think that God does that? It was already written that you were going to do exactly what you were going to do. You were already going to tell God no. God already knew you weren't going to take that job. And so he's already planned the pathway for you to still meet your husband at that exact job. You just don't know yet. You might not work there. You might work somewhere else, but those companies that you're working at might one day merge together and you're going to meet your husband that way. God is miraculous, and he is way further in his knowledge and wisdom than we ever will be. We do not compare to his understanding whatsoever in his ways. But it also made me think about a couple of things. So Judas. So Jesus already knew that Judas was going to betray him, right? It wasn't at one point did Jesus go, you know what, Judas? I appreciate you wanting to be a disciple, but I just don't want you to be one, Or, Judas, I changed my mind because I know that you're going to deceive me one day, and I don't want that for my life. So I'm just going to say, you know what? Thank you, but no thank you. I don't want you to be a disciple. No. Jesus already knew what was going to happen. He already knew one of his disciples, one of his very own, was going to betray him. He already knew Peter was going to deny him. Whether Peter walked with him for years, he already knew one day it was going to come that Peter was going to deny him. And he still stayed faithful and remained faithful and kept his connection with Judas, kept his connection with Peter, etc. There's another story. So I want to quickly go into Genesis. It is in Genesis chapter 3. And this is about Eve and Adam biting the apple. And I'm going to read this part really quickly because I'm just going to be hopping around, but it all comes together, I promise. So we're reading in verses 5, and we're going to hop around. She, which is Eve, took some of its fruit and ate it. She also gave some to her husband Adam, who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. So the Lord God called out to man and said to him, "Where are you?" And he said, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." Then he said, so God said, "Who told you that you were naked? Did you eat from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" Skipping over to verses 21. The Lord God made clothing from skins for the man and his wife, and he clothed them. This is another example of you are exactly where you're supposed to be. You're going to do exactly what God knows that you're going to do, whether God has already warned you and told you not to do something. God told them very early on, do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And what did they do? They ate from it, and they became naked, and they tried to cover their bodies up, right? And so God is like, "Where are you? Why are you hiding from me?" You think that God doesn't know where they are? Be for real. But God is like, "Where are you? Why are you guys hiding from me? Like, what are you doing?" And Adam goes, "We're hiding from you because we're naked." And God goes, "Who told you you were naked?" You think that God doesn't know already? Let's be real. And so what did he do? With the graciousness that God is, and he is so merciful, he clothed them. He made clothing for them. He already knew that it was going to happen, right? He knows the beginning from the end. And he let them do it. And he punishes them because he is such a gracious and merciful father that he does punish them. But he also clothes them. And I think that that is just so beautiful, because when you think about love and discipline and parenting, like, you tell a kid not to touch the stove or they're going to burn themselves, right? What does the kid do? The kid touches the stove. And so you discipline them. You might give them a spanking, you might yell at them, you might tell them that's not, like, I told you not to do that, right? Then what do? You run the kid's hand under cold water, you put a band-aid on it, you still go back to taking care of that child because you love that child. And that child, you know, from either your own personal experience or the experience of somebody else, what happens when you touch a stove. So you, as a parent or as a parental guidance or whatever it is, you try to tell that person who does not know, the little kid, do not touch the stove because you will burn yourself, and it's not a fun feeling to have burnt skin. That's our God. He tells us not to do something because he knows the consequences. He tells us not to talk to that man because he knows that we're going to date them and that man's not our husband. Or he'll tell you, don't take that job, but you want to take that job because that job is going to make you a lot of money, and now you just started it into a company that is not towards your purpose, or, you know, your boss is going to treat you like crap, and he already knew that ahead of time, but you did what you wanted to do. And God already knows that you're going to do at the end of the day what you're going to do, but God is still there to discipline us, but also show us love and protect us and cover us when we feel naked and things like that. You are exactly where you are supposed to be, and to stop the what ifs in your head. So what should you do? Be more observant. Be more observant, and when the devil is telling you the what ifs, when you start thinking about a what if, write it down. Make a list, matter of fact. Make a list of all the what ifs that you have in your head, and make a list of all the things that you feel like you don't have and that you feel like you're not good enough until you have it. Make a list of all those things and look at them. And notice that those are lies. Those are lies from the enemy. Those are lies that keeps you from wanting more. Those are lies to make you feel like you have missed your mark in life. Those are all lies from the enemy. And then I want you to have more gratitude in your daily life, at least once a day, at least for the next 10 days. Make a commitment to yourself for the next 10 days to find 20 things that you are grateful for each day. Takes all of 5 minutes. If it doesn't for you, if it takes you longer to think of 20 things, if you're on number 10 and you're like, what else am I grateful for? Then you need to realize that you do not have as much gratitude as you need to have in your life. Do you have clean water to drink? Do you have food that you can eat? Were you able to pay your bills? And I know some of y'all saying barely. Okay, but did you still pay them? Were you able to take a shower this morning? Were you able to talk to your friend on the phone this morning? Were you able to pray to God this morning? Were you able to wake up this morning? Were you able to walk this morning? Even if your knees are a little painful, you might have had to grab a cane. Can you walk? Can you feed yourself? Things like that. Like, there are so many things in the world that we can be grateful for. And I feel like if we always are thinking about what we don't have or what we're missing, which is again from the enemy for us to desire more and more and more and never be appreciative for what we have, then we're never going to really see all the blessings that God gives us every day. Every moment of every day, if there is breath in your lungs and you are able to wake up and breathe, you are blessed. And so we need to be more grateful in that. And last thing is to shift your perspective. Stop worrying about the past. Stop worrying about the future. The Bible says that the future will worry about itself, and to be in the present moment. Don't worry about the past, because there's nothing you can change about it. Every minute that happens, every 2 minutes ago was the past. I don't need to worry about if I made a mistake here, or if I did this, or if I did that. There's nothing that I can change about the past. And a great story to talk about the past is Lot's wife. When the angels were trying to get Lot and his family to get out of Sodom and Gomorrah because they were going to destroy it, he said, like, go and do not look back.